So here's the map we start with. It's just a straight line. You can see 4 different rooms, straight to gun. And this little mini tutorial will just teach you different ways that you can obstruct that now. So the first thing you're going to have to do is edit your actual Ent file if you're an editor. Most people use Quark. A few of us use BSP. I use BSP. You can see here, so I have, like a start line Ent added. I'll create a link. I think it'll probably be pastebin to my setup. You're going to have to adjust that if you use Quark. So the first one we're going to try is the start line Ent, and it's just a trigger. So like any trigger, make a brush that you want it to be the size of. I'm just going to have it be 16 across, a little bit higher than the player itself. So for this is the visible component. So you just want this to be missed so that the player can go through it. Trans 33 so they can see through it, and warp just to give it a little bit more visibility. Apply that. So now copy that brush, and for this, for the actual trigger itself, I apply a trigger texture, and you want to bring it in 16 units on every side. The important thing is it can't be touching an outside structural brush. It can touch internals, and so you have to apply the actual Ent to this, and then go to your surface flags, and you want to make this player clip and mist, and that way it's both invisible and you can walk through it. Okay, so what I just made looks like this in game, and if you look down at the timer in the bottom right, it's at about 8 seconds, and when you pass through it, it completely restarts. It strips all your checkpoints. It also strips any weapons you might have. This is nice, just use it as a start zone instead of a specific start point. Helps get rid of the laggy starts that we can have. So the next addition here are keys, or checkpoints in this case. And we have 2 different types. One are the actual key Ents that are visible and admins can put in, and this is airstrike, blue key, data CD, data spinner, data pass, power cube, pyramid, red key. For the sake of this, I'll just use one and snap it. And I'm just going to put it in this corner here and drop it down to the floor. So you can see that there, and that's how simple it is for one of those. Okay, so for the resizable checkpoints, it's pretty similar to the start line trigger. Just make a brush roughly the size you want, and then apply a mist so you can go through it, trans so you can see through it, warp to make it more visible, apply that, and then make a copy. And again, you want to take it at least probably 8 to 16 units away from all the walls that aren't internal. I like to also put it inside of the actual brush itself. Give it the trigger texture just to make it more visible for you, and player clip and mist, apply, and then actually apply the Ent itself, which is CP resize 1 through 20. Each one is unique and you can use each of them. Okay, so in game you can see now we have the red checkpoint here, the resizable one here. To actually enable checkpoints, at least locally, you want to admin super user, and then mset checkpoint total 2 in this case because there are 2. So you can see here at the bottom, it'll actually say 0 until you reload the map, but when I hit the first one, it'll say 1 of 2, and then when I hit this one over here, it's 2 of 2, and now you can get the gun. Just to show you, if you don't actually pick up the checkpoints, it'll show a small message up there to restart. Okay, so the next new Ent is the changes to trigger push, and let's say you don't want people to get through this doorway right here, this one, if they don't have 2 checkpoints. So the way you can do that now is, I'm going to take the actual brush from the checkpoint, just the visible portion, not the actual Ent, and make a copy here, and then apply the trigger texture to it, and make it a clip, and a mist, and now actually make it a trigger push. So the first thing you want to do on trigger pushes always is set a speed. So I'm just going to set a pretty low value of 50. And you want to set an angle. So in this case, it's 180 degrees. You want to be pushing back toward the player. So to actually make it a checkpoint trigger push, you give it a key value of target and a value of checkpoint, and then the count is however many checkpoints you want the player to need to pass it. Okay, so you can see here we still have our checkpoints, so just to show off what it looks like when you don't have the proper amount. So when you walk into it, it'll push you back and say you need 2 checkpoints to pass this barrier, or however many you set and count. So if I go over here and I get both of the checkpoints, now it just lets you walk straight through. So the next change is that you can actually have BFG jumps now. So just add a BFG to your map. It's pretty much the same idea as a rocket, just add it in, and so I'll actually add a BFG there and a rocket on the other side. Right, that's all you need to do. So the first thing you want to do if you're testing this local is first log in and then set BFG1, and that enables you to actually use BFGs. I'm going to set my hand to 3 just so you can actually see this. So you can see it actually fires, it has the delay, but that's just a given. So you can see you jump pretty high, maybe 3/4 of a rocket. That's not bad. And similar, if you want to enable rockets on your map, just go set rocket 1. And now you can pick up rockets, do your normal thing. Okay, so the next new Ent is a weapon clear, and much like it sounds, it clears your weapons. So similar to every other trigger we've done so far, make a visible component here, and then copy it and make the trigger component. So you have that there. And then make it a weapon clear. And that should be all you need to do. Alright, so you can see right now I have a rocket out, and when I pass through the new trigger, it immediately gets rid of it and changes it to a blaster. This was possible before through a really sneaky trick with a trigger hurt, but I just think this is a lot easier for people to use. So the next new Ent is a CP clear, and similar to the weapon clear, it just clears your checkpoints. So make the visible component like we have a bunch of times already, and then make the trigger component, same idea. Okay, and we want to go all the way up to CP clear and apply it, and that should be all you need to do. Okay, so when we load in, I'm going to grab both the checkpoints, go through here, and now this is the new CP clear Ent, and you'll see when I walk through at the top, it'll say 2 checkpoints removed from your inventory. And that's all there is to it. We're almost done. One more main new feature is the weapon finish. This has been around for a while, but I'm not sure that people really know how to use it, so I'll just show it off here. So make the visible section like always, and cut it in one away just to be safe. Okay, and give it a trigger clip and mist, and then go all the way down to weapon finish and make the end. And that's it. Okay, so one thing I am going to do is set checkpoint total back to 0 because of the CP clear at the end. You still need it for the trigger there, But so you can see now we have the weapon finish here and then just the railgun there, and just touching this makes you finish. Over a few other little things, one of them being the trigger teleport Ent. I didn't actually add this Ent, it was already in the game, but I don't think many people use it, so here's a little example. So I'm just going to copy what I did for all the other triggers. Same exact idea over and over and over. So you can see here, and make it a trigger, flip mist, and then apply a trigger teleport. And so what you're going to want to do here is set a target, and I'm just going to do spawn 1, okay. And you have two options for a destination. One being the normal info, or miscellaneous rather, teleporter destination, and that'll be just a visible Ent. And I think the more interesting one is the info not null. So what that does is just you can make a teleport that doesn't have any sort of visible component. So you can see here it's pretty small in comparison. You can spawn people right up in the air. So in this case I'll put it there and give it the angle and a target name and spawn 1, and you can see here they're connected, which is a good thing. Alright, so just showing that off, so you can see the trigger is here, and you spawn right up in the air, right up there, and you just fall immediately. One thing to consider is that the not null pushes your character slightly forward. The destination, the original miscellaneous one, will not. The next one to work on is trigger gravity, and like it sounds, it can alter the gravity on a level or in a specific location. So like all the others, create the normal trigger setup here, one away. Clip and mist. And then make sure it's on trigger gravity and set it. And for the flag, you want to give it a gravity value. The default is 800, that's what you're feeling on most maps. So if you want to have it be a little bit lower, let's go 400. An important thing here to consider is that whenever you respawn, the gravity does not reset to 800. So if you only want it to be on part of the map, you're going to have to put a small box around the spawn location. And what this will do is just every time the player spawns, it'll get reset back to 800. You'll want to do this whenever you have a teleport or anything like that, where a player is sent back to before where the gravity changed. I actually did forget one thing. On trigger gravities, for whatever reason, you have to set the spawn flags to 2. For whatever reason, that Ent is set up in a way that if you don't have a spawn flag to 2, and I think 1 might work, but I always use 2, it won't do anything. Okay, so for how it looks in-game, so you can see spawn in 800, here's the gravity trigger. Now I look like an alien. Okay, then if we go back, you can see back to 800. So one thing that someone asked me to include in this was super basic sunlighting. And the absolute easiest way to do this is if you're in world spawn, you want to set a sun angle that's with underscores in between and underscore at the front, and then -90, 90, and that sets the sun directly above you. And then a sun surface, see the underscores again, with a value of 1. And this just kind of lets the light disperse more naturally. And then if you have a sky up above, like we do here, and you're in your surface flags, just set it to a sky and light. You can fiddle with this value. 500 is okay for a smaller map like this. And it just makes it look really nice with about 20 seconds of work. The final little bit I have was also a request, and that's how to use a file list. So there's two ways to actually see which files your map is using. Well, three ways. I mean, one is just knowing. The second would be in BSP you can list used textures. And it doesn't show the folder that they're in, but generally you should know. So that's one method. And the third is if you go into the test server channel, you can see here Mako did an upload and it was missing some, so you can tell from that. And also you can see here I did a map check, and this just shows which files the map actually needs. Places you don't need a file list is if you only use .wals. Just kind of unnecessary. The proper way you want to use them, so like for ataraxia, the file list, I was using a lot of PNG textures to override the walls. And so what you want is just first the base folder, which in this case is textures, the folder that the textures are in, the name, and the extension. You don't need quotes, you don't need anything else, just one per line. What else? Forward slashes, not backslashes. One way you can actually generate these a little bit faster. So if you have, let's say, these textures right here that you want to have a file list for, highlight the ones you need, hold down Shift, right click, copy as path, and then go to Notepad or whatever you use and paste that in, and you'll see it has a lot of extra crap. So go to Control F, replace, find what. So in this case we want to get rid of all of that, so copy and paste it in there, replace it with nothing, and replace all. You see that fixes that. We want to get rid of quotes, so again replace all, that gets rid of that. And we don't want backslashes, we want forward slashes, so replace all on that, and you have a working file list. One very final thing. So the file list, I didn't mention how you should name it. It should just be the name of the map file with the file list extension. That's it. Alright, if you have any more questions, I guess put it in the comments or ask me on Discord.